just maybe explain where it came from. What are we actually looking at?
This is Richard Hubie Pilkington's fly tying box. It not only contains his fly tying materials, but also some angling artifacts. The Pilkington family originally from Yorkshire, and then sometime around the late 1800s, they move across to Preston, and they become very big metal manufacturers and resellers. So they're into heavy metals and stuff. But they were also, thankfully for us, passionate fly fishers. So this is a combination of Richard Hubie Pilkington's stuff and Richard Pilkington, who's his father. His father's stuff dates from probably 1820 up to 1870, and then Hubie Pilkington takes it off.
It's a literal treasure box.
Yeah, it is.
Treasure chest, rather, yeah.
And we've got various silks that they used. Obviously, the ones that everybody looks at are things like Pearsall's.
Wasn't there like a business connection between Edmonds and Lee, or was there some sort of product placement within that?
There seems to be what you find in a lot of these bobbins is surprisingly the bobbins are very similar across a lot of the companies. And what happens is there's a chap called Samuel Cunnicliffe Lister, who invents his knit comb that can take the waste product of the silk industry and refine it into pure silk.
Right, okay.
Legend has it he came across a sack of silk waste products at Liverpool docks. And he was given it because it was just rubbish, so he was just dumping it. So he took it home and he treated it with steam and these fine combs that they were using in the woolen industry in Bradford. And overnight, he seems to have become a silk billionaire. So much so that in the late 1800s,
Rumpelstiltskin's got nothing on it.
he buys 4 country estates in Yorkshire at a value of £15 million.
Wow. So
he's a big man.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing you find in all these silks is that they've all got the Lister's moniker, which is like a chessboard.
Yeah.
So this is Lister's silk. So what he's doing is he's providing silks for a various range of other different resellers.
Yeah.
They're remarketing it and selling it. Yeah. And it's possible that Pearsall's is amongst one of those.
Yeah, okay.
When you see the modern Pearsall's, you find that the colour changes around 1970, 71. Right. The colours get brighter in the modern silks. This is remarkably at the same time when Lister's folds goes under.
Right.
So it's probable that Pearsall's have changed the silks because their suppliers have
just dried up.
Have dried up. And that's how possible tie-in to Pearsall's. Edmonds and Lee, John Lee, who was the father of Hartfield Edmonds, father of Norman Lee, was a director of Lister's silk mill in Bradford. So it's probable that Edmonds and Lee, being the first ones to mention Pearsall's, are kind of alluding to the fact that his father had something to do with business.
Yeah.
So he's.
I think one thing's interesting. I mean, this is a legitimate, Yorkshire Wharfdale spider anglers tying box.
Yeah.
And it's not just got one brand of silk in it. They're taking whatever, it's not like a kind of a unique brand thing where it's like a Bible where you stick to that sort of brand of silk.
No, the over-reliance on Pearsall's silk does come from Edmonds and Lee. They're the first ones that mention Pearsall's. Yeah. Prior to that, there's no mention of any manufacturer.
Successful bit of branding, right?
Well,
still sticking to this.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship gone ballistic. But
these flat bobbins are interesting.
Well, these show. You can see that they won't really fit into what we'd call a bobbin holder like the traditional ones would do. And this is because they're tying flies in their hands and not using a vice, so they're basically taking a degree of silk off, cutting it off the bobbin, and then just using that in their hands. You know, and they would dress to it, so there would be no need for a bobbin.
Did they have any mechanical aids though to do that, or was it just kind of a...
We'll come to that later.
All
on.
right. Spoiler alert.
They would. Some of them in the really early vices, you'll see that there's a hook on the bottom of the vice,
Yeah.
which they would then wrap the silk around, keep it taut, keep the tension off,
Right.
and then put something on, dubbing or whatever, and then do the fly. So the bobbin is really a later addition to the fly tying.
Because I mean, I'm a new bad hand tire expert. I'm an inveterate, just tinker and sort of like experimenting with all this sort of stuff. But dubbing, you have to get a little bit of tension between that part of your hand and that to actually hold it.
To hold it on.
Yeah. So actually extending it out a bit would makes perfect sense.
Plus, of course, if they're tying to horsehair or silkworm gut, it's quite easy in your hand because you can manipulate the gut out of the way. If you're tying on a vice, it tends to get fiddly in it. So there is an intuitive process, in tying in the hands.
Fascinating stuff.
We also not only have his silks in, but we also has his Victorian wax.
It's like chunks of amber. It's like Jurassic Park, man. Are there any mosquitoes preserved?
Yeah.
Or is it...
I'm not sure what this fungus consists of, but
we'll assume it's harmless.
So we have his wax.
Cheese, but...
We have his wax.
And it's just cobbler's wax.
Just cobbler's wax. Various tinsels that he would use. He's obviously a well-to-do man because he's buying his fly tying stuff from Berkeley Square in London. So he's really This is a later wax. It's probably Hubie Pilkington's stuff.
Have you tied with any of that yet?
I've tied with all of it.
Very good.
It needs warming up because it burns the silk and it breaks.
Yeah.
So once you warm it up, it works quite well. Let's see what else we have. This is his dyes. You see in Edmonds and Lee, a famous March Brown pattern, which calls for Crawshaw's Red Spinner dye.
Right.
And this is Crawshaw's Red Spinner dye. They used to sell it in powder form as well as a liquid form. It's a bit like an oil paint that painters would use. So this is...
When they say spinner dye, I mean, was that made specifically for fly tying?
For fly tying, yes. Yeah. They were a London company. I think vineyards started to take over the dyes and take an interest in that. These are some of his hooks. So we got various. We got Cummins of Bishop Auckland.
Yeah.
Mustard.
Yeah.
Round bends, the Kendalls. Again, more Cummins. This is an interesting one. This is a really rare one. This is Walbron of Leeds.
Yeah.
Famous grayling angler and author. Typical Yorkshireman. And various loose hooks.
Am I right in thinking these are probably all on different sizing scale? They might have numbers on them.
Yeah, there's
alphabet soup of different...
numerous scales going on. There's a lot. I would say that the mustard ones are probably the oldest ones.
Yeah.
Cummins certainly made hooks. I'm not sure Walbron did. He would probably have bought them in and repackaged them. So they would probably actually be partridge hooks.
Yeah. And are these all blind-eyed or are they
yeah. All snap bends as well. A few Kirby's, but they're all blind eyes. And if we really go into the blind eye hooks,
it's got layers.
layers and layers. So this is his fly wallet.
There we go.
The interesting thing about this is Hubie Pilkington, who's the later of the two, doesn't seem to be a proficient fly tyer.
Right.
So he buys his flies, and he buys flies from some of the leading North Country fly dressers of the time. So we have purple snipe
Yeah.
on horsehair droppers. This one here, which isn't opened. This is from Nat Hunt, who was a famous river keeper on the River Ribble, the Manchester Anglers.
Nat Hunt was one of the you donated
yeah.
very kindly and
Yeah.
perhaps foolhardily donated us some of his handiwork for me to actually get wet.
There
at
you
some
have
point.
his little doodle.
Yeah.
These are yellow partridge.
So there's more than 6 hackle barbs sticking out of that one, isn't there?
Yes.
I think that's another.
Another
I think we've conversed about this before.
misconception.
Blend with good number of turns of hackle on that.
This is
Fantastic looking thing. They look really fishy still, though.
yeah, another one of Hunt's with his address on it.
Yeah.
He used to send out paid envelopes. Little cottage industry there.
Yeah.
Dark watch it tails. There's tails and droppers.
So what's the in terms? I mean, obviously the droppers have a little. We maybe have a look at that later on. But when it comes to tails, how did you actually attach that bit? Because it's dressed onto a length of.
Yeah, it's basically the horsehair leaders are more or less free sections with loops on both ends. So they would loop to loop another section on, and then loop to loop another section on the bottom. You can see on the tails there generally down to 1 or 2 strands of horsehair.
Yeah.
Some of the droppers you get twisted droppers, so there'll be 2 or
Right.
3. It depends on what flies is from.
And would the tails just have a loop as well? So you'd loop to loop on the end of the
No,
tip bit, or
yeah, the tails would do.
The tails, yeah.
Tails do. Droppers,
Droppers go between the.
yeah, just have a stop knot on the end, which is pulled between 2 overhand knots. So, and what's remarkable about this is he's not just got Hunt's flies, he's got literally hundreds of different flies.
I mean,
Brown owls.
There's a good thickness of wallets there. And
Yeah. They've all got flies in. As I say, some are open, some are unopened. He's buying flies from a chap called Willie Whittaker of Wharfdale, which is he's up in Grassington. He's probably about 4 miles away from us now.
Yeah.
Whittaker is a well-known Wharfdale fly fisherman. He's got his
Yes.
fly tying implements and that. Later on, you can see that Hubie Pilkington's taking a hand because now we're getting nylon casts.
Right.
So
He's
the
tying his
horse,
own as well.
yeah. So we're going from probably 1800s up to the 1920s, and now we're going into the 1950s and 60s. Again, some of these have never been out.
I know I've seen the way that when you've rigged your droppers up and you've got the loop that puts up against the joint sort of knot, is that something that comes in when we start to see nylon as a cast material? Or is that sort of...
Yes, I mean I really copy a couple of early authors from the 1940s and 50s that start to do the similar thing with horsehair. Well, not with horsehair, with silkworm gut.
I
Obviously,
think Cutcliffe might do that as well, actually.
yeah. There's a few out there that do put it on a loop.
Yeah, and then snug it up.
Pull it down. I think it's also in Carter Platz's book in the 1920s. So
Yeah.
it's coming to the fore as modern materials are slowly coming in. I think we're getting here first.
One thing I was surprised about that we were chatting about earlier on is just how long horsehair tippet material actually persisted.
Yeah, right until the 1950s.
Yeah.
There's William Keith Rollo, famous angler and author of his day. He's still searching out horsehair casts in the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some other stuff as well, people talking about even the transition from fly lines. The early silk lines often have horsehair, furl and silk together.
Yeah, together.
As well for properties.
They're knitting them together. The problem with horsehair is that it's a stretch.
Yeah.
It becomes really stretchy.
When it's wet.
Yeah, yeah, and like it was quite abrasive resistant. Said to go transparent in water. I've never really sussed out where it does or not.
A bit like fluorocarbon.
Yeah, it was
supposed to be.
supposed to be marketed for it, but they used it extensively and constantly. The only problems they had was when the stretch
Yeah.
became too problematic for them.
Yeah.
And then obviously they're going into silkworm gut. But the people that were fishing horsehair leaders and lines wouldn't touch gut. They just shied away from it.
Yeah,
They did
yeah,
not
yeah.
like it at all.
Yeah. Fabulous stuff.
What also we got here is his fly tying book of hackles that he
This is something else.
he collected over the years, so we'll find a good one. And I like the way he takes a page and starts to fold it into a little pocket.
That is nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's done it pretty systematically as well.
He's
though.
done it.
Yeah.
So it's just full
I almost sneezed on it.
full of feathers. Snipe rump. The irony is that I love to tie a March brown with a snipe rump feather, and there's only probably about 6 or 7 on each bird
Yeah.
that you can use. So for ages I was decrying the fact that I couldn't get snipe rump, and then I find a pocket full of
It's a lifetime
few
supply,
hundred,
isn't it?
few hundred years worth. So I occasionally dip in.
Good man.
Woodcocks, obviously, these are owl feathers,
Right.
owl tails. Woodcock again. Red cock feathers, so he's tying dry flies as well.
Yeah.
And you can see
I'd give that a go, but I'd get bored after about 3 hours.
the quality, longer
Yeah.
hackles. The dry flies have a lot longer hackles than them.
Yeah,
Then
they've still
it's
got a good
together,
chance, haven't they?
Yeah.
4 days off when you go.
More game, which is obviously grouse.
Yeah.
Cuckoo.
Why not?
There's 1 or 2 patterns with cuckoo feathers in.
I think it's almost like the fly tying equivalent of a 10-bird roast, isn't it?
It's just, you know. I've never tied a fly with a cuckoo feather, but one of these days I will have a go.
Tied in the hand, of course.
Yeah. Jack snipe. The blower feather, which is the darky grey.
Yeah.
Golden plover that everybody seems to be raving for. Landrail. There's a famous pattern called the bracken clock.
Yes.
And people use the neck feather from a pheasant. Some people were using landrail as a substitute. Water hen breast. It's not used that often. Field fare. I must confess I use field fare because I've got a few Victorian collections. So he's using the overcovers.
So this is the son that is
This is
largely
the son. This is
curated,
Hubie Pilkington himself.
and he's a bit more of a whiz with the fly tying
Yeah.
skills.
Jackdaw, Norwegian crow, partridge, magpie. There's a heron primary. Hawk. So we have a famous pattern that calls for the blue hawk, which is a Merlin feather.
Yeah.
This is the darker one, so these tend to be the breast and back feathers. I would not recommend in anybody, way, shape or form using Merlin feathers, but they did traditionally. Kestrel as well. And this is the light hawk, which these are going to, again,
Yeah. It's fantastic barring. And just-
yeah.
And obviously a different time, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Blackbird, again, wouldn't you be using this stuff? Snipe. It's a different era, isn't it? The materials that they're using.
absolutely.
Uh,
But the fact they still exist in this form, and they still exist in a perfectly usable form.
yeah,
They
yeah.
absolutely.
I do dip in.
Sparkling quality.
Dotterel.
Yeah.
You know, as a fly tyer, sometimes you just come across stuff that just knock your socks off.
Yeah. I really like the idea that somebody's curated these feathers, and it's obviously, you know, a piece of history. But the fact that little small parts of it can still be doing service in the way that it was sort of originally collected, is, you know, or
Yes,
designed to be used.
I think, to me, they're there to be used to fulfil its purpose. Obviously, doing fly fishing shows and fly tying shows, you don't really want to be.
No, can't.
Can't bring
Absolutely.
things like that.
No.
These are again some of his fly tying collection that he hasn't put in the book. These materials really start to go back, and you can see the handwriting changes. Large worm hooks for the worm
There you
is
go.
worming.
Again, in a lot of the historical books, there's nearly always a chapter on whether it's cooper fishing or worm worming. And they're always saying, look, it's super technical. It's they don't look down at it at all. It's just, you know, it's part of what they do.
Hair collars, April 1869. And here he is, near Preston.
I bet some of these stamps are worth a bob or two as well.
Yeah. Pot blowers. So those are feathers for the pot.
Yeah.
Corn crake. Hen breast. Again, full of hackle. Fieldfare wings. Red hackle. Again, bracken clock. It doesn't say what one is.
I trust you've got a good collection of mothballs at home to kind of get.
There's a coot.
Yeah. Recognisable, so.
Yeah. He's literally just a treasure trove of.
I think that's the perfect
Tom
term,
tip,
isn't
blue,
it?
blue tip,
Yeah.
dark snipe, light snipe. As you say, the postage stamps must be worth more than anything else. And there's his address, Catterall House, Garston, Peewit's Neck, which is Lappel.
Yeah. But I mean, this is a family, you know, father and son. Obviously, absolutely typical examples of the North Country angler. But, you know, a pair of many and a much broader fabric. And of course, there's one or two famous publications that people refer to. That lens is potentially quite narrow, isn't it? Because you've got somebody with the means and the wherewithal to actually write a book and have it published and what have you. But these private collections, that's, I mean, for me reading your book, that was one of the most impressive and interesting things, was the access to some of the private things. It gives the map around that one sort of narrow sort of strand that people are familiar with. I think that's important to appreciate.
I think what astounded me writing the book was that when you look at the iconic texts, Edmonds and Lee, Pritt, Walborough and the others, there's always been a notion that the flies in Pritt's book are his flies. But when you start to delve into it, there's a long tradition of beck watchers, as we call them around here, river keepers, who produce private lists. And so Pritt in his day has been in the ideal place to pick up one of these lists and go, okay, I'll run with this and publish it, which he has done. He's basically taken 2 or 3 Wharfield manuscripts, collated them together along with a few patterns that he's picked up from the Eden and places like that, and he's published it. And you know, all credit to him, his name's synonymous with it, but he didn't invent these patterns. And what you find is little things like these, little gems like these. Now this is an original North Country manuscript. Again, this is in the Pilkington collection, but it's not Pilkington's.
Right.
There are little annotations in the list which I've sussed out are Pilkington's handwriting, but the list itself is an earlier handwriting. So here, you know, we have, well, numerous patterns
Yeah.
Some of them,
Fantastic handwriting.
yeah, and you can see the annotations.
Yeah.
And what interesting with this is some of the annotations relate to manuscripts were never published. So in here, number 2, the Morgane blower, underneath the annotation is "So Lister said," so which is Sylvester Lister, Baden Tower. So he must have known Lister because Lister's list is never published.
Yeah.
Again, looking through it, we have Whitaker's list of flies, another founder of the Pearsall Angling Club. Again, his list was never published. So,
Of the unpublished lists, would local anglers have a decent idea of what was within that canon, do you think? Or is it,
yes,
is it fairly closely guarded, this sort of thing?
some families kind of keep it under lock and key. Some families are more open and share it. What you find is that in the 1800s, there's a tradition of guided fly fishing in the Dales area. Because these were country estates, large swathes country estates. So people who would visit the country estates would book a day's fishing, and the riverkeeper would take them out. The riverkeeper would also supply them with lists of flies at a cost. So not only that, he would sell them the flies. So these little private lists started to slowly get circulate around, which is the case with Pritt. He's obviously got hold of 2 or 3 lists.
Yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly, if you go through the census records in the 1800s, you'll find people putting down fly fishermen and fly tyers as their profession in the census records in the 1840s, which is,
Yeah, absolutely.
I came across one Picard of Addingham, and he's there on the census record as fisherman. And for a couple of weeks, I'm thinking, well, he's miles away from the sea. And then it dawned on me, he's a guide.
Yeah.
He's a fishing guide. So, there is a long tradition.
Absolutely.
Now, given your passion for horsehair leaders,
Indeed, yeah.
if we can find a few.
Slightly odd quirk to have.
Yeah. Yes. We have a series of horsehair
There we
leaders.
go. Another box of
Another
flies
box
within
of flies.
another Russian
Boxes
Gulliver
upon
boxes.
boxes. So if we come to the back,
Oh, okay, so
is now we're getting his collection of horsehair leaders.
yeah.
And what's remarkable is not only does he collect them, but he also starts to write down the various leader designs.
That was very civilised of
So,
the
yeah, very nice. So here we've got tinselled owl, a tinselled snipe
Yeah.
on horsehair leaders. And now we have twisted hair casts.
And again, I'd 100% fish these like right now.
So these are his fishing casts.
I don't want to unfurl that, but okay. We'll get it out under controlled conditions. Fabulous.
Dozens of them. And you can see the knots where he would place the droppers.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I fished a couple.
Very good. Maybe we can twist your arm to
Yeah.
have a go with them at some point.
You'll be buying the next string.
Gladly. But yeah, again with my own experiments, I've managed to do the sort of the sliding joint and, and fit the knot in and snug it up. I wouldn't be that confident in reattaching another one because I don't know if I'd maybe damage it by switching them out. But I think if you make them with a bit more skill,
There's letters in his correspondence to various fly dressers about the technique of changing droppers.
Oh right, so it's like a.
And one of them says, "Have courage." So
Perfect.
yeah.
Fantastic. Listen, don't let me steal that because I've been known. Listen,
Your
we've seen
reputation.
again. It is an absolutely fantastic box of delights. But what say we maybe decamp to the river and try and see a few of the local residents on some of your patterns?
Some on
perhaps,
my
and, yeah, and
I'll be delighted. I'll be
so
delighted.
let's go.
Hopefully we'll catch a fish.
yeah, let's give that a go.